Morning, Mariam. Morning, Dahrug.
Morning, Mr.
Good morning.
Nada, Basant. Nada, Basant. Peter. Peter. Gamal. Samar. Mashali. Shahid Ibrahim. Ania. Luigi. Maya. Selma. Omar. Uh, if you refer to the weekly plan, you know that we are going to study literature today. And our topic today is uh, the Canterbury Tales. And we'll explain it in a minute. So I have Dahrog, Mariam, Mirna, Minna, Nada, Basant, Peter, Gamal, Samar, Mashali, Shahd Ibrahim, Hania, Luigi, Maya, Salma, Omar, and Farah.
Here يا مستر.
Okay, so we have 17 students or 18. Uh, so I missed one. This is Mr. El Kiki. Okay, El Kiki. So I'll share the screen in a second. I want to go up here. Can you see the screen, guys?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes. Yes.
thank you. So there are 19 students so far in the room. I'll start. Okay, as you can see, so this is page. This is page. I'd like to welcome Mr. Hamid first. Hamid. You know, this day marks the beginning of term 3, and you know, you need to take issues more seriously because the stuff we are going to study starting today is in the exam in the third term, and you know, the mark of the third term will be the same mark of the second term. So you need to take issues more seriously, guys, please. I'd like to welcome Jenna. And you need to turn a new page. Or a new leaf. Okay. The Canterbury Tales. Remember this name. The Canterbury Tales. Tales means stories, right? As you know, a tale of two cities means a story of two cities. The Canterbury Tales mean the stories of a place called Canterbury. We'll know later what Canterbury is. Is actually, it's a story about stories. The Canterbury Tales is a story about stories. We have Danielle. Danielle. Okay. Again, the Canterbury Tales is a story about stories. Chaucer's, who is the writer of the Canterbury Tales? The Canterbury Tales was written in the 14th century, in the year 13 something. The writer is Geoffrey Chaucer. Geoffrey Chaucer. The family name Chaucer is taken from the French word chausseur, or the shoemaker. They say that the family name Chaucer is taken from the French word for the shoemaker, chausseur or chausseur. You know it better than me. Okay. Chaucer's guided tour of medieval life and literature. First, I want someone to explain the meaning of the word medieval. Who can tell me the meaning of the word medieval? Medieval. Who can explain or identify the word medieval? If you know the answer, raise your hand, please. Peter? Peter?
During the Middle Ages.
Yes, I mean, let's say in the 13th, 14th centuries, something like that, around that time. Medieval English, medieval language, medieval life, okay? But life in the 13th and 14th centuries, or around that time, Chaucer's guided tour of medieval life and literature. Let's read it. Uh, Rich people, poor people, stockbrokers, artists, farmers, street vendors, all these jobs or positions belong to nowadays, right? With all of the different lifestyles in our culture now, you may wonder what single event could gather together people from all parts of society. Can anybody tell me? Uh, Guys, what single event can gather all different types or people from different walks of life? Merna, give me one event.
I think religious events.
Religious events, perfect, like pilgrimage.
Yes,
For example, when
yes,
Muslims go to Kaaba or go to Mecca,
yes.
presidents,
All the
yes, ambassadors, poor people, rich people, all of them gather in the same place.
same
Another example,
place.
please, guys. Another event. Another event. Can you give me an example of an event in which rich people, poor people, or people can gather? Minna,
Olympic Games.
Olympic Games. Perfect. Thank you. If you go to the stadium, for example, in any match, you can find rich people, poor people. They are gathered in the same place, in the same small place. Thank you. So this is what Geoffrey Chaucer does here. Geoffrey Chaucer found in his own society an orderly and organized, okay, even joyous event, an organized event that gathered people from diverse backgrounds and occupations, a pilgrimage. As Myrna said, this is a religious event, a pilgrimage. You all know that pilgrimage when you visit a sacred spot or a sacred place. When Christians go to any church or any sacred place, this is called pilgrimage. When the Jews visit a sacred place in their religion, this is called pilgrimage. When Muslims visit Mecca or Medina, this is called pilgrimage, right? It is such a pilgrimage that gathers together the diverse characters in his masterpiece, the Canterbury Tales. A masterpiece is a very important work of art. A masterpiece is a very important work of art. The journey begins. Like modern travelers nowadays, medieval pilgrims, a pilgrim is a person who visits a holy place or a sacred spot. Medieval pilgrims in the 13th and 14th centuries must have been eager to while away their time traveling, okay, and have some fun during their time traveling. Chaucer uses this fact to set his story in motion. The Canterbury Tales begins with a prologue. We're going to study it or start it tomorrow, inshallah, in which the narrator, who is the narrator of the Canterbury Tales? Presumably Chaucer himself. We're not sure, we're not 100% sure who the narrator is, but presumably it's Chaucer himself. Meets 29 other pilgrims in the Tabard Inn. But the idea of this masterpiece of this work, guys, is the narrator, the person who tells the story, meets 29 other pilgrims. All in all, we have 30 pilgrims. Okay? All in all, we have 30 pilgrims gathered in an inn, like a small hotel called Tabard Inn, located in a suburb of London, in one of the suburbs of London. As the pilgrims prepare for their journey, the host of the inn, Harry Bailey, this is the name of the host of the inn, sets a challenge. What is this challenge? To make the journey more entertaining, he suggests that each pilgrim tell mm, This is subjunctive, if you remember. He suggests that each pilgrim tell, we delete the S here, okay, 2 stories on the way to Canterbury and 2 stories on the return trip. So, how many stories should we have after the end of the trip? Who can tell me if you're following up? How many stories?
Uh,
Hmm,
116.
116. This is Mirna.
Yes.
Okay, there are, the narrator is included, Mirna.
Oh, okay. Then it's 120.
Perfect. So, all in all, we have 120 stories. Why? Again, we have 30 pilgrims, the narrator and the 29 other pilgrims. Each person, each one of them, will tell 2 stories on their way to Canterbury and 2 stories on their way back. Okay, so each pilgrim is supposed to tell 4 stories. 4 multiplied by 30 equals 120, as Mirna said. Okay, we'll see how many. I'd like to welcome Mr. Rashwan. Rashwan, okay. We'll see how many stories he could write or Chaucer could write. Again, to make the journey more interesting or entertaining, he suggests that each pilgrim tell 2 stories on the way to Canterbury and 2 stories on the return trip. The person who tells the best tale, this is the challenge, will be treated to a feast hosted by the other pilgrims. But the winner or the person with the best story, we have 120 stories. The best one of them or the best storyteller will get or will be treated by the others. Okay? Uh, this is the challenge. The pilgrims accept the challenge, and Harry Bailey, the inn host or the host of the inn, himself decides to join them and judge the competition. He is not going to tell a story, but he's going to join them just to judge the competition. He will be the judge. Each of the following sections of the work consists of one of the pilgrim's tales. After this is the prologue. But this issue or these issues are explained in the prologue, the introduction, and each part of the following parts is just a story or one of those stories. Brief transitions between every 2 stories. As one storyteller finishes and another begins, link the stories. In this way, the work, the Canterbury Tales, is actually a story about stories, as we said. How many stories are written in this work of art? 24 different tales. What? We said 120. The number he could finish is 24 only. 24 different tales set within the overarching tale of the pilgrimage. Okay? So we have a whole story, the story of the pilgrimage, and within this story we have 24 stories. So they were supposed to tell 120, but the number of stories, the number of finished stories we have is 24 only. Okay? Snapshots of an era. In the prologue, in the introduction, Chaucer sketches a brief but vivid means clear, portrait of each pilgrim. We have 30 people, 30 pilgrims. He sketches a brief description of each one of them, creating a lively sense of medieval life. In itself, the prologue is a great literary achievement. The prologue itself is a great literary achievement, as critic Vincent Hopper notes. So the prologue itself is a perfect work of art. The description of the various pilgrims turn in rapid sequence from an article of clothing to a point of character and back again with no apparent organization or desire for it. So he describes their clothing, their characters, and everything. Yet, so effective is this artful artlessness that each pilgrim stands out sharply as a type of medieval personality. By each one of those 29 or 30 pilgrims, represents a typical personality of the medieval ages, and also as a highly individualized character. يبقى each one of them represents guys, يعني the school administration told me not to accept anyone after 7 minutes. Okay, some people are still joining. يعني this is the third session, not the first. You had 2 sessions before this session. Please, I won't mention names. Don't join us that late. Okay, you should be punctual, please. Let's move on to the next page. And thank you for your commitment. I have 25 students in the room so far, which means 2 students only are absent. I'm not sure who they are. I think Abul Farh hasn't joined yet. And another person, I don't remember who he or she is. I think Shah Tamim. Shah Tamim, are you there? I think Abul Farh and Shah Tamim haven't joined us yet. Let me check. This is Shahd Ibrahim. Yes, we don't have Shah Tamim or Abul Farh. And all the others are.
مستر حضرتك خدت الغياب
Yes, Ahmed.
بتاع حضرتك ندهت عليه بس
Excuse me?
حضرتك مستر تقريبا ما ندهتش اسمي بس موجود يعني.
لا, you are the first one, Ahmed. You joined us. You are the first name who was admitted.
اه yes.
You are perfect in attending.
طب مستر حضرتك كتبتني؟
Guys, all the people are here except Abul Farh and Shah Tamim. That's it. Okay, let's go on. Chaucer begins his survey of medieval society with the courtly world, the high-class people, which centered on the nobility. Medieval nobles, such as Chaucer's knight, one of the characters is a knight. And you know what a knight is or what a knight does. Chaucer's knight held land granted them by a lord or king. You know, knights hold land granted to them by a lord or a king, and when this lord or king is attacked or in war, those knights protect the lord or the king. You know this well. For whom they fought in times of war. In the middle ranks of medieval society were learned professionals. Okay, Mirna?
Master, I didn't get it. So Chaucer is a like a king or a lord?
No. He is the writer, okay?
Okay.
He wrote the Canterbury Tales, right?
Okay.
In Canterbury Tales, he talks about 30 pilgrims, okay?
Yes.
Every single one of them has a specific job. One of these characters is a knight.
Oh, okay.
Okay? When we say Chaucer's doctor, this means the character of the doctor in his work. You understand?
Oh, okay.
Because
okay.
we don't have
Yes.
names, we have jobs. Yani Chaucer's doctor, teacher, but there is a teacher within these 30 characters. You understand now, right?
Yes.
So his character, the king, the knight in his book, held land granted them by okay? In the middle ranks of medieval society were learned professionals such as Chaucer's doctor. So there is a character which is a doctor, okay? We don't know the name, we know the job. He called them by job. We have some female characters like the wife of Bath, which we are going to study. The wife of Bath. She is the wife of a town, or you know, the English town of Bath. It's famous, okay? And wealthy businessmen. The lower orders included craftsmen, storekeepers, and minor administrators, such as the reeve and the manciple. The reeve and the manciple, these are 2 jobs which were common at that time. What do they mean? They are simply clerks, governmental officials or clerks, okay? The various ranks of the church, cornerstone of medieval society. These are the important jobs or positions at that time, guys, are represented by characters from the prioris to the summoner. And from high people or important people in the clergy to just the summoner or the caller or simple people or people with lower jobs. However, in this paragraph, you won't say that within these 30 characters, we have all walks of people with all walks of life, with different backgrounds, the rich, the middle class, and the poor. Got it, guys? Okay? From knights to doctors to poor people. However, as Chaucer writes about character ranks and types, he presents them as real people, individuals who defy or challenge categorizing. For example, though all outward appearances suggest that a merchant at that time was wealthy, is wealthy. He is, in fact, a merchant is wealthy, okay, deeply in debt. In fact, he is, deeply in debt. The merchant or Chaucer's merchant is deeply in debt. Although when you hear the word merchant, you imagine a person who is well dressed and who is rich, he has a lot of money. Such breaks in stereotype provide readers with an even greater insight into the daily lives of medieval people. We understand how issues went at that time. When you hear the word merchant, if you studied, for example, the Merchant of Venice and how rich those people were, okay, you imagine that this man is very rich. But Chaucer's merchant here is in debt. He is not that rich and he is in debt. Literally, sometimes we imagine that a specific person or a specific job, for example, this man is, for example, a university professor. He must be happy with his job, or this is a famous doctor. He must be happy with his job. The same time, internally, we find that, or if we dive deep into his personality or character, we'll find that he's not that happy and he leads a desperate life. This happens sometimes, right? Mother wants to join again. Looks like there is a problem with his connection. Okay. Let's complete. The popular genres in Chaucer's
مستر
day. Ahmed?
انا لسه مستر النت كان عمال بيقطع معلش.
No problem, no problem. The popular genres in Chaucer's day included romances. Okay, these are the popular genres in Chaucer's day at that time. A romance is a tale of chivalry. Chivalry, chivalry, like the manners of the knights, respect, and especially with women, right? Chivalry. Fablion, or short body humorous stories. A fablio, it's taken from, or fablios. This is the X is here, is pronounced here because I looked it up in the dictionary yesterday. Fablios, short body. Body means outspoken, which use maybe some improper language. Humorous stories. Okay, the stories of saints' lives, sermons, and allegories. And you know what an allegory is? It's a narrative in which characters represent abstract nouns like pride or honor. Again, these were the popular genres in Chaucer's day, but they include, again, romances, fabliaux, stories of saints' lives, sermons, and allegories. Okay, so we have 5 things here. Each pilgrim chooses to tell a type of tale consistent with his or her character. And each of the major forms of medieval literature is represented. And these 5 genres are represented, okay? Chaucer wrote much of the tales using his own form, the heroic couplet. If you remember, we mentioned this expression many times before. You know, a couplet is 2 lines. Couplet en français. Couplet, or from couple. You know, couple means 2. And heroic couplet, it's a pair of rhyming lines. So the 2 lines are rhyming. The end of both lines rhyme with each other, with 5 stressed syllables each, like the seafarer, if you remember, 5 stressed syllables. Okay, it's 5 syllables 5 stressed syllables followed by 5 unstressed syllables. For this important innovation, he was the one who innovated it. Along with his other achievements, who is he? Geoffrey Chaucer, the writer of the Canterbury Tales, is known as the father of English poetry. Again, Geoffrey Chaucer is known as the father of English poetry. Why? Why? Because he wrote much of the tales using his own form, the heroic couplet, which is da da da. Okay? And for this achievement and many other achievements, he is known as the father of English poetry. So you can have a question like this. Why is Chaucer known as the father of English poetry? Because he is the one who created or innovated the heroic couplet. What is the heroic couplet? It's a pair of rhyming lines with 5 stressed syllables each. Okay? It was an important innovation at that time. The Endless Road. Traveling with Chaucer's pilgrims. We have 30 people, maybe 31 if if this person, Barry Haley, join them to be the judge. A reader may feel that the world is a big place, but that somehow all of its pieces fit together. These 30 people with their different backgrounds, okay, are gathered in one place, traveling together. This is the big world gathered in small place. The Canterbury Tales reminds us that every journey from here to there is filled with stories waiting to be told. And we nowadays, if you are on the train or on the bus or on the plane with someone, maybe you get to know them and then start telling your own stories. Even if you start your maybe conversation by talking about the weather, you can say, isn't it funny today? Isn't the weather fine today? And so on. And you start telling him or her about your self, and he or she tells you about herself, and maybe you tell a story, she tells a story. Okay, guys, I have an exercise here. I'll give you 3 minutes to do it. Extend your learning discussion. Modern day travelers. Imagine taking a long bus or plane trip with a group. Discuss the types of people traveling with you. The jobs. Okay? Come up. At that time, at Chaucer's time, we had the Reeve and Manciple and the doctor. Of course, today we still have the doctor. But at that time, they didn't talk about engineers. Nowadays, we have engineers, we have police officers, we have pilots. They didn't have pilots at that time. So you make up your own characters, come up with your own cast of characters for a modern day version of the Canterbury Tales. Use these questions to guide your discussion. What different kinds of people make up our society today? Okay. Identify 6 types. Mention 6 types only of jobs or characters and build a character that matches each. In what ways might many of these individuals break the stereotype, like the merchant? We all imagine that the merchant is rich, but the Chaucer's merchant is in debt. They outwardly appear to fit. Okay, what kind of tale might each character tell? Choose a point person. A point person is a leading person, an important person, to share your ideas with the class. I'll give you 3 minutes. You don't need to be much organized. Give me some ideas about the characters who can be on the plane or on the train with you now, and describe them in brief. Take your time.
حد سمع المستر؟
Excuse me.
جمال احنا بنحل السؤال اللي قدامنا.
Yes. Yauta, can you hear me, Yauta?
Yes,
Yauta,
Mr. I just had my internet connection off.
are you sure? Because you joined
Yeah, the
very late.
internet
Okay.
connection.
Okay.
Yeah, I joined again.
Okay, no problem. Okay, out. So I still have two absentees, Shahd and Abul Farh. I have a third person. I don't know who he or she is. Type. Guys, yani let's, because we still have about 7 minutes before the end of the session. Who is ready? The first question, what different kinds of people make up our society today?
Mr. Do you mean jobs?
Yes. Shahd Tamim. Shahd, can you hear me? Sorry, man. Shahd? Shahd Tamim?
Yes, Mr.
That's very late, Shahd. Yani I'll consider you
I'm sorry.
absent in the first session, sorry, because the school admin told us to consider you absent after 7 minutes from the beginning of the session. We have about 6 minutes before the end of the session. Or do you have a plausible excuse? Do you have an excuse?
I'm traveling, Mr.
Okay, okay, no problem. Are you traveling to Cairo or to Port Said, Shah?
To Cairo.
Okay, arrive there safe and sound, inshallah. No problem. Okay, Merna, what different kinds of people make up our society today?
So business people
Mhm.
and a doctor,
Yes.
also engineers.
But in general, do we have such things like a high class or nobility, middle class, and lower class, like medieval ages?
I think there are different styles of lifestyle. Yes.
Okay, so we can say that we have high classes now, middle classes, and lower classes. Can you give me an example, a job that belongs to each class?
So I think a high class would be like a successful business person,
Good.
and for middle class, maybe a government, someone who's in a government job.
Okay, like
Like
doctors, most of the doctors, teachers, lawyers, right?
yes, maybe
Okay, lower class.
lower class. Maybe agricultural workers.
Yes, sanitation workers, letter
Yes.
carriers, maybe firefighters, maybe. Thank you, Mirna. Type. In what ways might many of these individuals break the stereotype they outwardly appear to fit? Like the merchant, whom we think is rich, but the man is in debt. Chaucer's merchant. Do you think that we look in a specific way at a specific position or job? يعني the way we see it outwardly is different from its reality or uh, the reality of this position or this character. Guys, another person, please. يعني, I'm asking the ladies here. Who wants to be a flight attendant, ladies? Does any one of you want to be a flight attendant, thinking that a flight attendant travels a lot and she leads a happy life? Hello?
No.
Who does? Who wants to be a flight attendant? A lady or a gentleman, because flight attendants can be gentlemen also. Does anyone here want to be a flight attendant? Nobody? What is the job that you want to, most of you want to be dentists or doctors or graphic designers and so on, thinking that those people lead a happy life. Do you agree with me?
Yes.
Mariam, what's your dream job? Mariam? Hania?
I don't know what my dream job is.
What is a job you respect and think this person or this job or people who have this job lead a happy life?
Maybe pilots.
Pilots? Okay.
Yes, they get to travel a lot.
So Hania thinks that pilots or all pilots lead happy lives. Do you think all pilots are happy? Or most of them
No,
happy
those
guys?
for no. I think the ones for like like airports, like for like what's it called, like trips and stuff, are like they're happy, but the ones in the military, of course, aren't happy.
Yeah, so
They
military
live a
pilots,
dangerous life.
maybe military pilots are not as happy as the civil pilots, as they call them.
Yes.
Okay, type. What kind of tale might each character tell? Myrna said we might have engineers nowadays. What kind of tale or story might an engineer tell, guys? Can anybody imagine you are on a plane together or on the bus together and you have an engineer and you agree that each one of you tells a story from his or her background? Huh? What type of tale do you think an engineer would tell? We still
It
have a minute
depends
before.
what kind of engineer.
Whatever. make up anything related to an engineer. We still have less than a minute. Who can say quickly?
If he is mentioning a project that he did
Perfect.
and
Minna, this is Minna, right?
distributed task. Yes.
Okay, Minna says an engineer will talk or tell the story of a project he made before. Thank you, Minna. بس كده, that's enough. We still have about 30 seconds before the end of the session. See you in 5 minutes. No, see you after the break, sorry. See you in 20 minutes, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Come on. What's wrong?